everyone, and welcome to the Stress-Free Zone. I'm your host, Randy Stress. Again, this is a show that lets you meet personalities, celebrities, athletes on a more personal level. You get to meet them, hear them, learn about them, and of course, we go into what they're doing, their business, and so on and so forth. Today, I have someone with so many hats, I had to put it on a card. So this PR specialist and author was an executive producer, or still is, I'm sorry, a producer, a stage manager, event coordinator, chief web developer, and so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Elvira Guzman. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you. I normally start off with my question, but I have to say I was very, very impressed with the fact that you not only started as a teen, so as a teen with that type of work ethic, and you've worn so many hats and worn them well, I might add, because it seems like everything you put your finger on, you succeed in, and that in itself is beyond impressive. So first, I just wanted to way to go on everything you're doing. I have to do that first.
Thank you.
So on this show, we try to get to know each other personally. So I typically start off with this question, and I'm going to do it for you like I always do. What do you want people to know about you?
I want people to know that I'm a purpose-driven person. I'm not a career-driven person. I want people to know that I know exactly why God sent me here. I know where I'm from, and I know where I'm going. And my purpose in life is to help others awaken so that they can pursue their purpose, so that they don't have to come back here again.
Okay. All right. I like that. Short, direct, boom. That's what I'm talking about, like a real producer. So I think I already know this answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Who is your inspiration?
I would say initially my first inspiration is my mom. Growing up, they had spiritual stores, and I would see many people coming into the stores to get a tea or to get a candle because perhaps they were ill and they couldn't afford to go to a doctor here in the US. And I just remember seeing them walking in my parents' store looking very sad or maybe very sick. But by the time they got out, my mom has a thing about her that she switches negative energy to positive. She switches sadness to hope. And she's my inspiration because every single person I encounter, I hope to leave them better than they were when they first met me.
That is beautiful. And it's really good it's good that you learn that at a younger age, that you're always going to have something bad. And my dad used to say that to me all the time. He's like, yeah, bad things happen. You can let yourself get stressed out. Now the bad thing happened. Now you're stressed and you're unfocused, or you could just accept it, smile, and move on. And that's a very good mindset to have. And
thank you. And like Napoleon Hill says, that in every obstacle, there's a seed of opportunity, but you have to get over the suffering in order to find that seed. God doesn't bring obstacles into our life to punish us. God brings obstacles into our life to prepare us and strengthen us for what we have in the future. So the next time you or one of your viewers encounters an obstacle, know that it's not because you did something wrong, but it's for you. It's to help you.
I agree with that because I've been through a lot of crap and it took me a minute to realize it. And then on the other side, I'm like, hey, there's a lot of stuff I can do now that I couldn't do. Okay, I'll take that. I accept that. Like, for example, never had an inkling that I wanted to be in front of a camera. I was always a photographer behind the camera. And one day I was thrown in front of it in an emergency, and who knew? Like, it was one of those, didn't know I could do that moment. So it's definitely good. If you weren't famous or doing what you're doing right now, what would you be up to?
Definitely being a professor at USC. That's something that I plan to do once I retire, only because professors don't make that much money, and I need a lot of capital in order to give back at the level that I want to. But definitely, once I retire, I am going to be a professor at USC, and I want to help people who are in the transition from getting right into college and not knowing what you should major in, and then once you do know, then also exiting and getting a good career, because a lot of people get lost when they're about to graduate. They freak out, and that their own negative energy is what blocks them from success. So I do plan to go back there and give back and teach back as much as I can.
Okay, that's a good look. See, you're hitting all these beautiful points, because I know when I was in college, I was terrified. No one told me anything, taught me anything. It was just constant learning, up and down, up and down. So it's really good. And with that in mind, you're helping people deal with stress. So I'm going to ask, what do you do when you're stressed out? How do you relax?
I definitely resort to prayer and meditation at the beach. Whenever I have big conference calls or big Zooms or big meetings coming up, before I know that's going to happen, I go to the beach and first I pray and I give it all that I have, because as you know, prayer is when we talk to God, and then I meditate, and meditation is when God talks to us and when God downloads to us the guidance that we need. So whenever I've been stressed or I feel like something big is going to come up, I always go back to our Creator to get guidance.
Okay, all right. I like the spiritual hook thing you got going there. It's really good because we all at some point we all fall away from it, and you learn your voice with it. People always think there's one standard way to do it. I personally don't do like everyone else, but I get my answers like everyone else. So it's all about finding your way to speak and hear it. So that's a good thing. I'm going to ask you this question because you were talking about being a professor. What would you teach?
I would teach business in general, and hopefully by the time I become a professor, we will be advanced enough to be able to have a course on purpose. I would definitely love to teach that that class, because I know that I could help guide people to do what they're supposed to do from the beginning, because I know me and you have both met tons of people that have degrees that they don't use at all because they never wanted to do that. They were forced into that either by their parents or by a counselor or maybe society standards. But in reality, they never wanted to do that, and they just wasted time and money. So before they get to that level, I want to get in there and make them get on their right track so that they don't waste any time or money.
I'm loving this because you're hitting a lot of things with me. I went to college for engineering, hated it. I understand it. It makes a lot of money. No passion for me at all, like zero. So it was it was terrible. So that's a really good thing to help people find their purpose. I unfortunately grew up in an era where your gift was pushed away. So I used to write all the time as a kid, and I would get pushed away from that as teachers because you're not supposed to do that, but they never brought me back to it. So I stopped writing for a long time. And then in college, I started writing again. And now here I am, I'm writing scripts and things like that. And I'm going, well, I could have been doing this my whole life, but I was pushed away. So it would be beautiful. I'm saying all of that, it would be beautiful to have someone teach a course, someone like you, to show people what their talent is and help them hone that talent into something that can sustain them for the rest of their lives and make them happy at the same time. So that's beautiful. And I meant to ask this when you were talking about teachers, about teaching and everything. I was going to ask if you're into mindfulness as well.
Yeah, definitely. When I do guest lecture at USC, UCLA, and Loyola Marymount now, I do make sure that the children know that they need to put themselves first, that they need to be aware of their health. They need to be aware of how they're treating others. They need to be aware of their thoughts, because most importantly, they need to know that whatever they're thinking is what they're going to manifest. And if you don't know that, you're going to be manifesting a whole lot of cheating boyfriends, people not wanting you to work for them, parents not wanting to help support you because your thoughts are getting to them, and you thinking, oh, they're not going to support me, or oh, they're going to leave me. You're just creating a future that you don't want. So absolutely, I do believe in mindfulness, and I do believe in teaching others about it as well.
That is beautiful. I definitely wholeheartedly agree with that. I've learned to watch what I say and watch what I think, and kind of it's actually gotten me to where I am because I believe so hard that this is what I'm meant to do. And it's so funny when I have people like my producer and other friends who are like, oh my God, you can do that. And I'm sitting there like, I'm okay. And they're like shoving it in my face. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I see what I'm supposed to do. And I start going. So it's beautiful to hear that. And you're such a deep thinker. This question, I think I'm going to love to hear the answer to. If you could have a conversation with anyone, famous or not, alive or not, who would it be?
Wow. My first answer is God. I would want to be in the presence of God. I know God is not a person or a thing. God is so huge and incredible, we can't put our finger on it. But if I would be able to sit at the table with one person, it would definitely be God. And if it had to be, let's say, a human being, I would pick the Prophet Muhammad. So I would like to sit down with Muhammad and talk to him about how he wrote that beautiful 500-page Quran and what made him wait 10 years after he had been awakened to tell everybody that he was a prophet. And I would want to know, back in those times, why he picked Khadijah, who was 10 years older than him, when back in the day, typically men were older than their spouses. So I would love to have a conversation with him, because out of all of the prophets, and I honor all of them, I believe that in his time, he was very, very courageous. So I would like to meet and talk to him.
I knew I was going to get a nice deep answer from you on that. Both of those were really good. And the one thing I'm not going to act like I know what the Prophet Muhammad was thinking, but I personally feel like he waited 10 years, because just because you're awake doesn't mean others are. And sometimes you have to wait until they're ready, because you can put the truth in someone's face all the time and they will argue with you with every ounce of their being. So you have to wait until they're ready for your truth. So that's what I believe was one of those reasons. And sorry, I know I kind of went into it a little bit.
No, I definitely believe that as well. And I also believe that the reason when he came down from the mountain, when our Creator had told him what he was supposed to do, he ran into his wife's arms and told her, no one's going to believe me. Just like you said, they're going to think that I'm crazy. But because of his wife, she gave him that backbone, that strength, that said, you know what, baby, do it. And I'm going to support you, because she was one of the richest women in the world. And guess what? She could create and distribute the book that we all know today as the beautiful Quran that I've read more than 15 times. And I absolutely love it.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm loving this. This is great. So look, I have to go to a childish question, which I love these questions, because we're trying to get into that personal. Do you have a celebrity crush? And this is going to be a difficult one because you deal with celebrities. So I thought it would be.
Well, I'll tell you, the one that I used to have when I was younger was Denzel Washington. And oh my God, when I met him, I was so nervous. I was sweating bullets. I couldn't believe that I was about to meet him. And I will say that when I met him, you could feel his presence when he walks in the door. There's just an aura about him that lets you know that he knows who he is, and he just lights up a room. So I would say in all of my years, he would definitely be my crush. But now that I'm a little older, I don't have those crushes anymore. And if I were to meet with him, I would just thank him for his contribution to the entertainment industry and for doing movies that really mattered.
Right. Yeah, I do love that he sticks to a certain principle when it comes to movie choices. And I heard the same thing, that when he comes into a room, you can almost feel his confidence, and you also feel that he's approachable. You don't feel this confidence, let me stay back. You feel like you could say, hi, Denzel. He go, hey, how you doing? And keep on moving. You know, it's really nice to hear those things. I don't have a celebrity crush as an adult, but as a child or a teenager, I'm not gonna lie. When I was 20, my crush was Whoopi Goldberg. I love her energy. I love her smile, and I love her willing to be her no matter what. I love strong women, and I love that she will not waver. If she believes it, that's all there is to it. There is no, maybe. I love that so much. So she was mine. And that's actually why I'm working as hard as I'm doing. I'm working because I'm trying to get an EGOT so that I can meet her as a peer instead of a fan, so that I can, because I love to cook. I want to say, Whoopi, come over. I'm making some cookies, or I'm baking, and talk. So yeah,
she's incredible. Well, when you do that, invite me over, because I absolutely love her ever since Sister Act. I've watched that movie over and over again, and I think she's amazing.
Well, you can link up with my producer. We're going to make that happen. We're going to definitely do that. That would be a great conversation. So now we've gotten a lot of personal stuff. So I want to get into what you're doing today. So give me a little bit of what you're doing with your show, your writing. Go ahead and kick off which one you want to talk about first.
Sure. So I just recently released my 4th book, and it's called The Day You Left. And it's my first children's book, actually. And it came about because I did a segment for Univision to help motivate their viewers. And in particular, this segment was about helping people not try to commit suicide, because the suicide rate is up amongst teens and adults. And so when I was doing research, I seen that the suicide rate amongst children is extremely up, and it's the second cause of death for them. So I decided decided to write a book specifically for them, so that if they're feeling bad because perhaps a father left their life, a mother died because of an illness, or a grandparent is all of a sudden dies from COVID, they have my books kind of like a comfort blanket to read over and over again, and know that they're never going to be alone no matter what, because God is always with and inside of them. So yeah, I've been working on that, releasing that. And also I'm developing TV shows, and I'm hoping that I'll be the first woman to have a show in English and Spanish be #1 at the same time, because I am fluent. So that's what I'm currently focusing all of my attention on.
That is actually beautiful. I love the book for kids. I sometimes sit down with my friends and we talk about how it is with children. And I think sometimes we as a society failed them because we were so focused on protecting them that we forgot to show them how to deal with all the pain and bad things that happen. When we were kids, you used to have people doing things to you and you learned how to deal with it and get over it, and we would talk to you. Now you're so sheltered that when it happens, most people, and it's adults too, they really don't know how to handle it. And it would be nice to read that book and see just what you say to help these children, because there's so much. It really saddens me when I see this. And I'm going to go back to your show because I want to know what your show is about. I got caught up in the book, but then I'm like, wait a minute, let's talk about the show.
Oh, thank you. So I've actually developed a few shows. So I have one called Hiking with the Stars, where I hike with celebrities, but instead of asking them questions like, what's your next movie, or tell me about your character, which honestly nobody cares about, I want to ask them real questions like, how did you discover your purpose in life? How old are you? What steps did you take in order to begin? How many times did you get rejected, and what made you keep going? So I want to ask all of those questions so that the viewers can now get in their journey and say, you know what, if they went through 100 no's, and I could take 10, I could take 20, because a lot of people think that those of us who so-called made it, we've never had one no, we've never had one obstacle. And so all of my shows are geared towards that. And I also have a talk show that I'm working on that will also help with that. And all of my programming is simply to help awaken others to their purpose in life, because I feel a lot of people are walking around here confused and working in careers that they have no business working in, when in reality, we need their gifts and talents in another area. So all of my programming is definitely geared towards that.
I want to ask you, you have a sister, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to ask you, did she play any part in helping you become the person that you are right now?
Absolutely. So I actually have two sisters, and my sister Sandy, who's 6 years older than I am, she was one of my first mentors. When we would come home from school, she would play school with me, and because we weren't allowed to watch TV, we just had to read encyclopedias if you finish your homework. She would play school with me, and I accredit a lot of my educational success to her, because I had a 4.2 GPA in high school. I went off to go to USC, and I've always had excellent grades, and I will definitely say it's a lot of it is attributed to her. And I would say if my older sisters growing up didn't go to college, or perhaps they went down different roads, as younger kids, we always idolize our older brothers and sisters. So I'm very grateful to that sister Sandy, who really, really helped pave the road for me.
Okay, that's really good too. That's okay. I'm loving this whole vibe. So I'm gonna ask you. We're going to relationships. Do you have any past relationship regrets? You don't have to say people or names, but I'm just saying. I like to talk about growth and see where people have gone to from that point.
Definitely. I will say that I've had two major past relationships, but I don't regret them at all, because I do believe that whatever is put into our life is on purpose, and it's meant to help guide us in some way. And both of them have taught me to either be better businesswomen, or to look out more for myself in certain areas, to maybe focus more on my health or more on my family than just being so career driven. So they've both taught me a lot. And more importantly, I also learned how to respect myself. And, as a Latin woman, we're always putting others first. Men eat before we eat. We put their suitcase together before we put ours together when we travel. But what I've learned now is that I say now because thank God I'm with a wonderful man who now helps elevate me. He helps make me better. And what I know to be true now is that before I was just a giver, give, but then nobody would help fill my tank back up. And now I'm in a healthy relationship where I give and he gives, I give and he gives. And that way it keeps my tank full all the time. So I'm not operating from a place of empty. So I will say that I've also learned that, because a lot of that has to do with respecting myself. And I'll tell you that I was single before this relationship for just about 9 years. And it's not because I didn't want to be in a relationship. It was because I would go on dates and I would see the same patterns. And I'm like, no, I already got out of that. I'm not going to go back into a situation like that. And I also say, it's not politically correct, but I'm not Captain Save-A-Ho. If you haven't done nothing with your life and you're not striving to do anything, who am I to come and change you? Because as you know, we can't change anyone. So those are the things that I've definitely learned, but I don't regret anything I've ever gone through.
I love that. And it's good to hear that, because I say these things to my friends, both male and female. You have to pay attention to patterns. It doesn't matter if you went to a different place to find a date. If you're still looking for the same thing, you're going to get the same thing no matter what. And it's really good. And it's nice when you said you were out of a relationship for 9 years. I've been out for 6 years, and I've only been on 2 dates in those 6 years because, I was trying to get first her out of my system and all of the negative stuff. And then I started focusing on what is it that I did what most men don't do. I took advice from women. I wrote a list of what I do and do not like. I wrote a list on what would help me as a person grow and me as a husband grow with someone. So I wrote all of these down, and then I listened to everything that my dad and mom said. They've been together 53 years. So I listened to him a lot when it comes to what you should and shouldn't do, what you should and shouldn't say. My favorite thing that he told me is, he's like, I'm sorry, I taught you a bad lesson on relationships, because I always thought they were just peaceful. And he's like, no, me and your mom argued. We just argued away from you. So I learned that it's okay to get mad. It's okay to have arguments, disagreements. He said, but you always remember, never say something you can't take back, and never forget to say I love you at the end. So that's one of those great lessons. And I'm glad to hear that from you. I have about 2 minutes left now. So I want to give you a chance to talk about, is there anything else that you're doing that you'd like to talk about? Or would you like for me to give you another question?
You could give me another question if you'd like.
I'll give you a question then. All right. What is your weirdest fear?
I would say heights, for sure. I've worked in high-rise buildings my entire life, but when it comes to jumping out of a plane, or even when I've gone zip lining, I didn't know that I had that fear. I remember going zip lining in Belize, and when I got to the top of the tree, my legs were shaking so bad. I was moving the wood, and they're like, hug the tree, because you're going to make us fall. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know I had that fear, because I've been working in high-rise buildings my whole life. And so instead of saying, no, get me down from this tree, I was like, no, we're going to zip line to the next tree and the next tree, because I'm not going to ever let a fear conquer me. Yeah, it's okay to know that you have it. And am I running back to go zip lining? No, but I'm going to finish what I did. But I would say that that's one of my weirdest fears. That is
a fear that I have also. I'm terrified of heights. I'm terrified of wooden bridges that sit high in the air. And I got over that. Well, I'm not over it totally, but I still learned how to deal with it. When I do photography, I was taking a photo of a beautiful waterfall, and I couldn't get the shot no matter where I stood. So I hung from a tree, and it was about 100 feet down, and I took these shots. Everyone loved the shots. And they were like, I thought you don't like heights. I was terrified the entire time. That fear is not going to beat me. And that's a great word of encouragement coming from you. You cannot let your fear beat you. That's how so many dreams are destroyed, because we let our fear go. I can't do that. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. And I tell men and women, when they go, I'm not pretty enough, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Just because that person doesn't think you're pretty does not mean there's not 150,000 other people that would think you are. So you can't let yourself discourage yourself. You have to not be your own worst enemy. You could have a superpower. What would it be?
Ironically, it would be to fly. Even though it's one of my fears, like I said, I wouldn't let it conquer me, but if I could just go outside and then fly to my destination versus getting in a car or a plane, oh my gosh, that would be the best thing ever. Or teleportation. I would absolutely love that. But yeah, that would be the only superpower, because I believe that everything else I could do with this little body that God gave me.
There you go. I love that answer. That's a great way to end this. It was an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I love everything you're doing. I love the person you are, and I love your energy. Once again, everyone, thank you for coming to the Stress-Free Zone. Remember, as I always tell you, remember, be stress-free. Don't let life get to you. Enjoy yourself, live, love, and laugh. Thank you once again to Elvira Guzman.